Welcome back to the next episode in this week-long special, Reclaim Your Year Life. I am your host, Elle Edwards, founder of the Faith and Business Playground, here with coaching, training, and this podcast to help you be youier, help you embrace your inner weirdo so you can make Jesus CEO of your life and business. And if by some weird coincidence you followed along on the podcast, but you haven't had the fully immersive experience of Reclaim Your Year Life, do please go to faithandbusinessplayground.com/reclaim, because I know it's easy for me to say, but you are missing out by just listening to the podcast, because you can do this on your own, but I've designed this to be an experience that we can do together, and I can support you a little bit more. So if you're not signed up, do please come on over and do that. However, I did promise you yesterday, I ended yesterday's episode by promising you that you'd done the hardest work. And I really mean that, because it's quite easy to get challenged by the perfect ordinary day exercise, because we think we have to do it right. And then we go and then try and set goals and we agonize over it. I want to remind you, and I've said this already twice now, I'm going to say it again, you're not doing this on your own. One of the biggest, well, not even one of, the biggest beauty and delight of having Jesus as the CEO of your life and your business is you don't have to do it on your own anymore. For me, at least, I found it incredibly freeing. I've told some of you listening already have heard this story, but the idea for Reclaim Your Year Live came when I woke up one morning. I'd gone to bed the night before, very clear from God that I was to grow the League of Brilliance, but didn't have a next step forward. And I went to bed uncertain. And I woke up, Reclaim Your Year, laid out like a divine download. Do this, do that, do that. It's like, okay. So then I simply have to follow the steps forward, trusting that God knows who this is for. God is already preparing the hearts of the people who I am to serve. And that's a completely non-logical, that way makes no sense from a human business perspective. That's not how the wider world does business. But when you're working alongside and collaboratively with Jesus as your CEO, it really does ease the pressure. So if you have found it challenging over the last couple of days, I understand, like it's not easy, but I would encourage you to keep going, get that cup of tea or that cup of coffee, settle in with God. He knows what you need. He knows where you are. He knows everything that's coming before and after and to be, and all of it. And you just need to follow along. I say just very loosely. I know it's not always easy, but that is the real magic of this, is that you haven't got to do it all yourself. But I did promise that today would be easier. So I'm going to assume that you've done the perfect ordinary day exercise. I'm going to assume that you do have your smartest goals. The next piece is a bit fun, because you're going to pretend that you're 2 or 3 years old again. You're going to be like a frustrating little toddler who says, "But why?" That's the name. That's the name for today's episode. But you've got to imagine me saying it like that. But why? Because you are going to be digging into why these goals are important. Now, the reason why I'm having you do this is because, yes, it's easy to get excited when it's particularly like when God went, right, do this and this, and it's like, yeah, that's so exciting, that's amazing. You've still got to do the work. And when you get started and maybe there's a bit of tech that doesn't behave how you want it to, or you mention to people and they don't quite get it, or you run into some resistance of some kind. That resistance doesn't mean that you're not meant to be doing that thing, but it does mean that you need to have some strategies in place for dealing with it and moving forward. And today's episode is helping you get those strategies in place. The but why. But why? But why? So for every one of your goals, and I do actually have a space for this, my Win the Week planner and quarterly quick start PDF guide, which you ideally should have a copy of by now. I sent a link to it. You'll see at the start of every quarter I do this, right? What are the goals for this quarter? And I have a section especially, why is this important? And that's ultimately what you're looking for each of your goals. So you take the first one, right? This is the thing I'm going to do this quarter. Why is this important? And you write down the answer. Or you can, for this piece, think the answer a few times. Why is this important? Okay, but why is this important? But why? But why? And I want you to keep but whying your way, niggling through that goal until you come to the ultimate reason why this is so important. But why? But why? But why? And then when you get your final but why answer, then you write it down. Write it down. There's a space for it in the quarterly quick start guide, or write it down in your own notebook or wherever. It doesn't really matter where you write it down. Do that for each of your 3 to 5 smartest goals. And the beauty of it is, like I say, when you get going and it's all new and exciting and shiny, it's wonderful. When you hit that messy middle and things feel a bit tricky, you've got those reminders in place of why this is ultimately important. And now I have a Bible verse for you. Now, when I first read this to you, you're going to be like, I don't understand how this is relevant to today, but let me read it first. We're back in Psalm 139, and this is the end of it. It's verses 23 and 24. Search me, God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. See if there is any offensive way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. Now, how is that relevant to this but why experience that we're going through today? I see it as very relevant because these verses remind me that God knows your heart. He knows where you're headed. He knows that, even on the days when you get it wrong, because we all get it wrong, or the moments in days when we get tripped up, he knows your heart. And so the fact that David, I had to scroll back up. I got Bible Gateway open on my computer to have the verse in front of me. And as I'm talking to you, my brain is going, I'm sure that's David that wrote that. But I had to quickly scroll up and check. But it is David. And I could have done that without actually telling you. But hey, I like to be transparent about these things. But David, when he wrote that psalm, right, he was sitting there. He had this real awareness of God's presence, and the whole psalm is beautiful. And I imagine you've probably read Psalm 139 before, but I'd encourage you to go back and read it again. Keep it as one of those psalms to go to when you're feeling that God doesn't really know and you're having to do this on your own. Psalm 139 is there to remind you that God knows everything. God can see everything, and how he can do that is mental. I can't understand that because I'm a human. Humanly speaking, it makes no sense. But God knows what's on your heart. And he knows the real why behind everything. And that's why these verses are the ones that are important for today. So if you're not sure, it's that reminder again. You do not have to do this on your own. I do not want you to do this on your own. Yes, I am here to support you. That's why we've made this a fully immersive experience with the Facebook group and the emails. And that's great. It's wonderful to have other human beings to bounce ideas off of, to get inspiration from, and all that sort of thing. And alongside that, God is your ultimate CEO. He is there. He knows all of the answers. And so it's like the example we gave before of God sitting next to you, whispering you the answers to a really important test. You'd get 100% every single time. And this is the real beauty of doing business with God alongside you. You don't have to do this alone. So I would encourage you, as you sit down and do the but whys, Jesus already knows the answers. You've got Holy Spirit there inside of you all the time, whispering those things and those niggles to you. So use that resource. I hesitated then on the word use, because use implies slot machines and just money in, money out, or whatever. It's not like that. God wants to be in relationship with you. He loves you. He cares for you. So he wants to be involved in this process. So, there is this temptation to think, oh no, we'll only go to God with the really big stuff. No. I mean, I'll give you a ridiculous example. My dogs kept waking up at 5:30 in the morning, which was fine when there was on a Monday morning when I could watch, meant there was an episode of Game of Thrones to watch. But generally speaking, waking up at 5:30 every morning was leaving me feeling quite drained. I only needed an extra half an hour, possibly an extra 45 minutes. But I said to God, can you help the dogs just to sort of stay quiet until 6:15? And he did, which I know sounds ridiculous. It might be a coincidence. I only asked him twice. But on the 2 times I asked him, I got that lie in till 6:15, which, so some of you, if you're not a morning person, 6:15 might sound horrendous. But for me, it's perfect. 6:30, amazing. Love it. But it's just a really silly random example of the fact that God is interested in every single aspect of your life. And sometimes the answer will be no. But sometimes the answer is yes. And here's how to do it. But unless we actually involve him in those conversations, we will never know. So give this a go for yourself. Sit down, but why your way to the real motivation and the real essence of each of these goals. And as I mentioned yesterday, if you'd like some support, I would love it if you come on over to the Faith and Business Playground group on Facebook, and we can chat through the direction that you're heading in. I shall be back tomorrow with another one of my favorites. In the meantime, though, thank you for listening. Take care. Bye-bye.